So it's going to talk a little bit about fine-tuning sounds for breath control, and then I'll just talk about some whatever stuff, and maybe I'll play and just get a little of everything. So this is my iPad setup that I use with the Uno synth, which is out of view down here. Oops, lower. There it is. So, sorry. So what I do is I'm mapping breath using MIDI flow, and that's a really useful utility on the iPad, where you can remap MIDI control, and you can also scale it, which is important for sounds like this. So what I've done here is we have breath to the filter frequency, and it's 0 to 127, but then the output is only 11 to 90. And I started at 11 because I'm trying to get a more precise attack, because there's kind of a dead zone on the filter in the beginning part. And then I don't open the filter all the way because it's too much, so I scale it to 90. Then I also have, on this particular patch, I have more than one, I have breath opening the filter resonance. It doesn't start at 0 and it doesn't go all the way. It kind of in the middle range, and it has a pretty sharp curve to it. Kind of a manual thing. I've played around with this quite a bit to get it to the way I wanted it to sound. So this is a really good, I don't know, I'm going to call it a control patch that I use with the, like the sawtooth lead sound that I was just playing. So if you play light, the resonance isn't too powerful, so you can get kind of a more conventional saw lead sound that way. Not as squelchy down low without the resonance. That's playing light, but if you push it, then you get like the which with a keyboard synthesizer that might almost be two different sounds. I have a lot of reverb on there because I had that when I was soloing. I could and then what I'm using is my rack just as a multi-effect. So there's no actual oscillator patch in my rack. It's going into the amplifier because I use that to smooth out the response a little bit. Because you get a little noise leakage with the Uno filter when it's just barely open, and I just my workaround for that is to just use breath to open the the gain or level control there. And that smooths it out quite a bit. If I wasn't doing that, it would sound like this. Which still sounds fine. I mean, headphones, you can hear the difference a little bit. If you were playing through a PA, you'd be hard pressed to really hear much difference at all. And I have a little compression next, not a lot, just to smooth it out. And then I have the delay, which is creating a ping pong because we have different times on the two channels. And then I have the plateau reverb that I love because you can create a really long reverb with it. And this is something I do on other sounds too. I'll talk about that in a minute. And you can get a similar effect with the plateau reverb in my rack that you can, that I do on desktop with the hollow reverb from Sine Vibes, which is essentially real similar because Sine Vibes developed the effects for the GeForce plugins. It's real similar to the built-in reverb you hear on Odyssey. So a lot of times I'm layering this. I don't have it layered now, but I will. Okay, I have the decay backed off on the Uno synth, so now you're hearing the reverb cloud coming from the Oddity 3 plugin over here from GeForce. Now I'm getting a little bit of latency between the, the sound of the Uno is going through an audio interface that's connected to this iPad, then it's going into a second interface, and then it's the Oddity plugin is in the laptop connected to the second interface, and then that's actually going into a third interface that I'm using to record with. So, yeah, there's a lot of things hooked up here. That's why my cable management's kind of a mess down there. You could probably see earlier, but this is something that at some point I discovered this just playing around. I think I accidentally turned on the Oddity or forgot it was on one time, and I was playing a sound, and because it had that long reverb decay, which the way I have it there. I use it like this a lot. I basically use the Oddity 3 as an effect almost. I'm going to change the patch and MIDI flow so I'm not opening the filter resonance anymore. And I'm going to switch to different sound. So more of a square sound there, and then the patch I use in Oddity 3, it's basically the init patch, and then I just made a couple changes for how I play it, which is breath opening and closing the filter. That's just Oddity now. Sometimes I use breath to sweep the frequency of the second oscillator. I don't have it set up to do that now, but that's a cool sound. And then when you go back to the layered thing that I was doing before, so that's the kind of sound that I use in different settings quite a bit. I mean, when I look at the things that I do to fine tune how I'm playing sounds with the Wind controller, what I do a lot of is finding a single whatever change or value where you can, you know, have a big contrast in the sound. What I might do too is have it where you can get like two different kinds of sounds. I have a lot of patches where I do this. For example, I'm just going to close that. If we go back to what I was doing on the iPad, one thing I do a lot with, now I was messing around with my patch, so it's a little different here. About time for a key change. So I have a little decay, and then what I do is I have an overdrive after that. So that's the same Solly that I was using before, except that I'm doing something different with the breath control mapping. So it almost gets more of a horn lead sound there. Whereas if I switch back to the one that has the breath with the resonance and the frequency, yeah, it gets real plucky. because of the resonance. And another trick you can do is if you're using the device, it has, I know it gets noisy when I move the camera around, sorry. So we have the control knobs on here. The filter frequency, the cutoff has a dedicated knob to the right, but what you can do is go into the filter menu and then manually adjust the resonance. So now breath is only going to the frequency. So, that's really 2 or 3 different ways to play the same sound. And that's one of the things that I find that's really useful if you're just using something, and I like these basically like a 2 oscillator, basic analog synth type thing. I mean, it could be, Cherry Audio Quadra DCO 106. You could use the Korg Odyssey. Any of those. I was just using the Oddity 3 from GeForce. Any of those conventional virtual analog instruments, what works really well is to come up with, a small bank of good usable sounds. Could be 5 patches, could be 10, whatever. And then what you do is you set them up in a way that they're pretty basic, and then you can find different ways to play them. So that's one thing I do a lot of. And I'm going to show another patch. Not this. So I use this Miniverse patch all the time. Cherry Audio Miniverse. There's nothing that special about it. Oh, I need to turn off the other synth. Hold on. Oh, and I'm not on because I was messing around with all of my interface stuff earlier. I was reconfiguring my setup, so. I'll come back on in a second. There we go. So that has a different sound quality than the Uno synth does. It's not as cutting. It's a little, creamier kind of filter sound. So that's the basic, mini Moog sound that I use all the time. The breath is going to the resonance and the cutoff. And then, so I use this sound. I use it a lot for funk kind of things. Let's see if I can call one up. loops. So I like that sound, and I have some delay and stuff on it somewhere. I used to have a Leslie on there, but I don't have it installed on this machine. I should have had it, because you can get crazy with that. But what I do a lot when I'm soloing, I might have my pedal switching set up. No, it's not working. Oh, there it is. I have it on the expression pedal now. So I'm taking that simple sound, and then I have the overdrive, making it like it's almost like a whole other patch, and then you play around with the effects. I like that black hole. It gets a little overkill when you crank it up that much, but and then what I used to do is run that stuff through the old MDA Leslie, and then you would get like a Frampton Comes Alive kind of sound, which I need to set that up again, because that's really a fun part of this patch. The way I set that up is to have, you know, where you can kind of go through layers of effects. So you're taking the one sound, and I mean, I hardly even use, I think I might only have that one patch on Miniverse, because I found that it works so good. And I have other, the more bright cutting kind of leads that I use on some of the art-based plugins. But when I go to the mini mode, they have a certain vibe that I'm going for. And, like I said, I usually kind of just build up the sound, adding effects to it. And that works really good. Oops. What else is interesting that I have in here? So when I look at the songs, air quotes, that I have in my set list, which is basically just the patch names of the ones that are kind of like my favorite sounds that I use all the time. Yeah, it's interesting that a lot of them do have oddity in the name, and that's because I'm using the oddity as a second layer, kind of as an effect. Versus when I want to get the more, I don't want to say conventional, but when I want the Odyssey sound that to me is more like the classic sound, and maybe this is just because this was the first one that I used, I still go to the Korg one. And this is one that's another one of those sync leads, but it's a different setup, because what's happening is there's parameter automation. So I'm just going to hold a long note, and if you watch the coarse frequency of oscillator 2, you can see where the where it's modulating by itself. So then what I figured out was how to work my phrasing when I would play things to utilize when it sweeps the frequency, adding more overtones to the sound to get it, kind of like whatever, I used to call it like a burping sound, but it's really more of a growl, I guess. Let me go back to the so here is the it has a built-in sequencer. That's what's doing the modulation. So let me go into the coarse frequency. So here you can see, follow along, I'm going to play a note and watch the red lights. So however this was originally set up, I've messed around with it to get the timing more the way that I wanted. But it's basically a modified preset. So if you go into the original Korg Odyssey presets, the patch is called Curried. And this is probably the way it's programmed on the factory. I don't know. except for the fact that I'm sending breath to the filter parameters, and I think I am sending it to the resonance and the frequency on this. And I actually have it in Unify because Unify has a utility to do the MIDI control mapping. And this is where you can not really see too well, but if I zoom it in a little maybe. There you can see it. So breath is going to CC74, which would be, I think 74 is the frequency and then 71 is the resonance. And I have two different curves happening, and then it's just the built-in effects. I don't have anything else going on with this. Oops. There we go. Here we're back. So it has the oh, I lied. I do have an external reverb going on this. I'm using the delay, but I'm not using the reverb. It does have a really good sounding reverb. So I put the hollow reverb plugin on there, which is the one that I use for Reverb Cloud stuff. And actually, I'll do some of that with this. So. Oh yeah, that's the factory patch. I'm still in it because the factory patch has all this portamento, and I got rid of that because it's like it drove me crazy. So I got to go back and change my patch. Sorry. Oh, and I must have this on a foot switch because it's not going to. What's going on here? It wasn't going to the hollow. Here it is. And now because I have the signal split, I need to back off the amount quite a bit. And as you can hear, that really is doing the same thing that the reverb with the really long decay was doing in the Oddity plugin. Now you can kind of see what the settings that I use are. Sorry, I just hit the camera. Man, I want to go to all my sounds, giving away secrets. But no, there's no such thing as secrets. I don't mind sharing any of the stuff that I have. So here's one that I used to use a lot, and I really like this one in live streams because it's one of these sounds, and actually this is the reason that I use the Reverb Cloud so much on other sounds, because it works really effective for solo pieces where you're not using a backing track. So. So what's happening is I have two sounds happening. One is Eviner, which is the saw lead. So I like that sound quite a bit. And then I'm using DS Thorn, but it's going through that hollow reverb plugin, which I just defeated. And this is the sound I used to use quite a bit this way before I had hollow. And what it is the Thorn sound has more of a plucky kind of attack happening, and it almost sounds like a mallet percussion or something. It's you know, it almost sounds like a glockenspiel or something. Not quite, but it has a little of that quality to it. So there's a good contrast between the Eviner sound, which if you're playing really light, you don't hear too much because you have to use breath to open up the filter with Eviner to really get it to speak. And I don't think I'm really using breath control with Thorn, and I have the velocity dialed in to the however I wanted it. And it's interesting, this is the trick that I guess I initially discovered it layering stuff with Oddity 3, and then I bought the hollow reverb so I could use that with other plugins. But it's that trick where you have two sounds layered, one has the long reverb cloud and the other one doesn't, and then if you switch the one on and off, which is what I'm supposed to be able to do with the foot switch, but it's not working, then you can selectively create whatever you want in the clouds. Let me see if I can do something interesting here. And I turned it all the way up to 100% decay, which makes it hang out there about 2 minutes or something. I don't even remember. 100% is really long. And 97% is probably a good amount with that. And it sort of works like typical chord voicings, like if you were playing a keyboard, where it's better to keep the lower register further apart, and then you can stack the notes closer together as you go up, kind of like how the overtone series works. That's a standard thing with chord voicings and orchestration. So I kind of observe that a lot when I'm playing. I don't even know that I think about it, but I play a lot of these intervallic things like so there's a lot of seconds in there. I'm playing diatonically all the notes, right? But I'm not playing all the notes down low like that. Otherwise, it'd just get all muddy. If you were doing, then it just sounds like, well, I mean, actually it sounds kind of cool, but it sounds like, you know, rumble, basically, because you can't hear what's happening. But when they're in the upper register, you can definitely hear that. So that's enough of that sound. And I have patches on here where I play the Uno synth through the laptop, but I don't have it convenient to do that. I could kind of do that, I guess, but there'd probably be more delay or whatever latency because of the fact that it's going through multiple interfaces that won't work as good as if it was plugged in directly. And I do have some sounds that are set up for multiple controllers. If this all works. This plugged in? Yeah. So what I'm doing is I have my launch pad controller somewhere down here. And then I have a foot pedal. Sorry for all the clunking. And then I have a foot pedal that's programmed for the sustain, and then the lead sound was actually Lyra horn 2. And what works nice with the and it's easier sometimes to just use a second controller to set up specific drone notes than it is to just try to grab notes off the Wind controller and then toggle things on and off with the foot switches. Sometimes that gets to be a bit much. But one thing I like about this Launchpad controller is, well, it has aftertouch, but it's also polyphonic. So, you know, if I was doing a voicing where I mean, sure, you could play spread voicings with some kind of harmonizer with the Wind controller, but then you run into issues where, you know, you can't dynamically change what pitches, you know, you're doing, whereas using the Launchpad, I mean, I can just play anything. And, you know, if you have the sustain pedal down, then all you just have to do is whenever you grab something that you want to hold on to, you know. Oops. Anyway. So that's another thing you can do with the live host setup. I haven't really been using the Launchpad all that much. I was so excited to buy it, and then to use it as a clip launcher, like in Mixcraft, for example. But I haven't been using Mixcraft all that much. But excuse me. But Mixcraft does have a nice clip launcher function. Wow, I've been going for 53 minutes. It'd be interesting to see what this video looks like. Well, I think I'm going to stop talking because it's actually getting late here, and I'm working tomorrow. So thanks so much for watching.